Welcome to the Dude Facts Podcast. Four guys united by their love for coffee and corny jokes come together to talk about Christian culture and the ups and downs of ministry. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy. The podcast starts now. Affirmative. Hey, it's the Dude Facts Podcast. My name's Josh, and I'm here, as always, with my friends Ryan, Jeff, and Grant, who's apparently in a frigid garage today. So you kicked back out of the house, huh?
Well, we had some snow here in Washington, and the girls had a 2 days of snow days, so they are inside, and I'm relegated to the garage.
Let's just be truthful. You got in trouble for dropping that pizza on the floor and throwing your cat.
Yeah.
Probably. Kramer was covered in red pizza sauce.
Did you end up eating that pizza?
Not yet, but maybe.
But I bet he was happy as Larry whenever he got some of that pizza.
Larry.
Happy as Larry.
Happy as Larry.
But as Kramer.
Happy as Larry as Kramer.
Yeah.
Who's Larry? The cucumber?
Larry the cucumber from VeggieTales.
Yep.
Oh,
exactly.
okay.
You got it.
VeggieTales.
Produce Tales. That's an episode for another day. Produce Tales.
Okay. All right.
There's like 3 vegetables in that whole show. Maybe.
So we know Grant's back in the garage. How's everybody else doing today? Everybody all right?
Doing fantastic. It's a beautiful day here in Tennessee. No snow.
It's like 80
degrees.
Know,
Then this weekend it'll be freezing again.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We're due for one more before the actual spring hits.
One more good
And then it'll
slap
just
in
be
the
hot.
face.
That's usually how it works. I mean, flowers start blooming. We've got shrubbery that's blooming out in front of the house, and
Shrubbery.
yeah,
You get a cold snap that'll kill all of it, and then we'll just have summer heat right after
that's
that.
right. That's exactly it.
I walk out of my front door shirtless, ready to attack the day, and the cold air just slaps me in the gut. Go back inside.
Okay, but what temperature do you think is cold? Like, at what point are you like, nope, I'm staying inside?
So for me, this has changed recently because I lived in New York, and I'm a runner, and I used to say anything below 20, I will not go out and run. Well, New York forced me to get out and run in the cold. So I ran in temperatures as low as 0, sometimes like -10 with the wind chill. But usually if it was below 0, I would not go out. But regardless, to me, it's cold if it's like 40 or below. It's just a different type of cold, either like, yeah, it's chilly, or yeah, I feel like somebody's stabbing me in the eyes.
Well, that's too, and if it's like morning cold is different than afternoon cold, because if the sun's out and it's 40 degrees, it feels fun. It feels better. But if it's morning and dark out, in Tennessee, it's it feels a lot.
Okay,
colder.
what about for blind people, Ryan?
And blind people can't feel UV rays, apparently.
They still have eyes.
They still have eyes, they just can't see.
Yeah. For me, like, if I don't have to
But
go
some of
out,
them don't have eyes.
if I don't have to go out, I'm staying in if it's under 50. But cycling, that's the only difference. If it's a beautiful day, it's not too windy, like 40 degrees is, especially if it's sunny, I'll cycle. Because if you think you're doing, 15 to 20 miles an hour in a 40-degree temps, it drops about 10 to 15 degrees. But I'll do full thermal as well. But that's about, I want to enjoy it. So, I know there are people that'll get out there no matter what, but I'm insane when it comes to cycling. So about 40 for that. But if I don't have to go out and it's below 40 degrees, I'm staying in the house.
Yeah. It's usually got to be like below 35 before I'm like, it's like too cold for me.
In Chicago, in undergrad, when I would go running, I would always run in shorts. So it'd be like 20 degrees outside, tons of wind blowing off the lake. And I did it so I wouldn't die. Well, that's not true. I would do it so if I stopped, I would die. That gave me the motivation to keep moving. Don't
moving.
die. Don't die. Don't. Yeah. Yeah. But now I'm one of the weirdos here where it's like 30s most of the winter, like upper 30s in the morning and like upper 40s in the afternoon. And if it reaches like 45 on an afternoon, I'll try to run with my shirt off for the same reason. Don't stop. You'll die. Don't die. Don't die. Don't die.
Well, that's the weather.
The weather update. Thank you.
A weekly
Warm
weather
here,
update.
cold up there.
It's true.
Yeah. So our topic this week, we're gonna cover a little bit more about youth ministry, and I think we're gonna do this in 3 or 4 parts, but we're not going to do it just back to back. All right. So we'll come back later. We're not going to do a full on deep dive. But we got some great stories that we want to share that listeners sent in. Thank you for doing that. In fact, right now, just want to encourage you wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, go ahead and like, subscribe, share, comment wherever you can comment. We definitely appreciate that, but we got some good stories submitted, some good youth ministry stories. We're going to share some of ours as well. But we thought the best way to start maybe a discussion for part 1 of our podcast on youth ministry is really just to start with the question, is youth ministry needed? Which, might make you uncomfortable asking that question.
Do we have a dun 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 sound effect?
Yeah. So here, let's pretend like we haven't heard that yet.
That's right.
And actually, I don't know if we do or not.
Just play anything and it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
That's how we roll on this show.
Is youth ministry really needed?
I'd never heard that before.
Wait a minute. I had it muted.
I didn't hear anything.
Here we go. Okay, wait. Going live.
Pinnacle production.
Let's see if we can get it here. Yeah, we are finely tuned. Is youth ministry really needed? Come on. What is going
Oh, yes.
It's like that Mitch Hedberg joke. He said he was watching an infomercial that said, "Forget everything you know about slipcovers." So I did. But then they tried to sell me slipcovers, and I had no idea what they were talking about.
Is youth ministry really needed?
Bloody frickin' dog!
There we go.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, that was perfect.
That's going to be a good TikTok soundbite this week.
Yeah, it is.
First
So,
try,
yeah,
third attempt.
That's right. So we'll talk about that and kind of our thoughts on that towards the end. So make sure that you hang out with us. Speaking of TikTok, we got some good comments this week. Right?
We did.
Well, I guess they were good. I don't know.
Depends on how you define good.
We got a.
We got some
comment this
comments.
We got 8 comments.
week. No, a comment.
Oh, a comment. I thought we
What's the
got more.
difference?
We got
A
a
single comment.
we got a TikTok comment.
A TikTok comment.
Is that what you're talking about? Oh,
Yes.
And
Well, our good friend, our now good friend, and hopefully future guest on the podcast, D Piggy, I think maybe his name. It's a 1, but I'm gonna pronounce it as I.
D Piggy.
Yeah.
It's all right. He's probably not listening.
He said
hope
in
he
quotations, we should make a podcast.
Now, what clip
did we
was
say that
after?
in that
Did we-
episode?
That was after, I think that was the one where Grant was flipping the pizza and it like dropped on the ground.
Yeah.
So Ryan,
High
you're
quality
the
entertainment.
you're the social media guru we were talking about earlier. So what's he implying with that comment?
Well, I think that the comment or joke is that like so many people have podcasts, and so it became a meme online to say we should make a podcast because it was like such an overdone thing. And our response was, yeah, that's exactly what we said.
That is affirmative.
Hey, guess what, Piggy dude? We did, okay? Ha!
That's right.
I mean, that's pretty much
You
exactly what happened.
Nailed it.
I mean, I
So
think
here's
he
what-
was just like in the room with us when we decided to do
I know.
this. So it was,
Yeah.
Maybe he's
I
with
think
the
he just
FBI.
wants to be our friend and hang out, quite
they
honestly.
should. I mean, you can have him on as a guest.
Yeah. So
We
we
just
got
got
everybody.
Piggy dude, you're trying too hard. Just send us some cash and you can be our friend. All there is to it.
That's all it
Or
takes.
if you own a company, some swag, we'll wear it.
Some
Yeah,
swag.
that too.
Yeah. So I would just encourage all of our listeners that are on TikTok to go to that video on our feed. It's the one where Mark is telling us how to foot spin or toss a pizza,
dough,
and
yep.
Grant drops it, and then just comment telling that guy he really needs to respond to our, because we sent him a request to be on the podcast,
Yeah.
and I guess he hasn't replied yet. But
I think it's because he's a piggy dude. And I've never tried to type with hooves or whatever pigs have on their feet, you know. I don't even eat those. Some people do. So I'm sure
Sometimes
he's
I do
just
try
like
to type with my
hunting and pecking.
knuckles. It doesn't work well. Usually that's when
On your hands or your
I don't
feet?
want to dirty my keyboard.
Hand knuckles or feet knuckles, Ryan?
Both. Practicing
Piggy
my
dude-
chimp dexterity.
Piggy dude, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
there you go.
Hey, Piggy dude, if you do come on the podcast, don't think you're going to come on here and be a total ham. You know, we don't play that.
Yeah, it's not kosher.
That's right.
Yep.
Well done, guys.
You're going to hog our airtime.
Yeah.
But
Josh is going to be baking us to get to the topic here.
We're not even to the dad joke portion, and we're already killing it.
not even. No.
Have a good one today, by the way. Have a good one today.
You have a good one today.
And we had several other good comments, but I think we can save those. There are some good youth ministry stories we'll get into here in a little bit. But yeah, we encourage you, if you're listening, please go check us out on social media. We're on TikTok. We're on Facebook. Drop a comment, say hi.
The Insta.
The Insta, yeah. Follow us. I don't know if we have a Twitter yet, but we'll on everywhere but Twitter you can go follow us and see our content.
Should
Are
we
people
combine
on
our
Twitter?
Facebook? Go ahead.
I was just
Are people
wondering,
on
are people on Twitter? Yeah.
I don't know. I have a Twitter, but I don't look at it that much anymore.
Mr.
I
Musk
look at,
is.
like,
Elon banned me, and then I had to get a new Twitter. So now I
Did he
only have
really?
like 5 followers. So
Wow.
I don't know if he personally pushed the button to ban me, but for some reason I got banned. I don't even know what I did. So
Oh.
I guess they didn't like my sports takes.
He's a big Sonics fan, and you're a Celtics fan, so that could
That's
be
true.
Wait, are the
Yeah.
Supersonics even a team anymore?
No, yeah. I was like,
No.
dude, your team's not even real. We're in Oklahoma now.
it doesn't exist.
Nope.
Well, let's do our dad joke.
You ready for it?
You go into the chamber.
This old man goes to a Christian doctor. And one day, the Christian doctor runs into the old man's wife at the grocery store. They exchange some niceties. And then the Christian doctor says, "Would you like to hear something amazing that your husband shared with me at our last appointment?" And the old man's wife said, "Sure, I'd love to hear." So the Christian doctor says, "Well, I'm a Christian doctor. So I asked your husband, how is your relationship with the Lord going lately?" And he said, "I have never felt more close to the Lord than I do right now." So I said, "Well, that's so wonderful. Could you elaborate more?" And the old man says, "Sure. Every night when I go to the bathroom, God turns the light on for me." The Christian doctor finished sharing that with the old man's wife and said, "Isn't that amazing?" And she had this look of disgust on her face. And the Christian doctor said, "What's wrong?" And she says, "The dang fool's been peeing in the fridge again."
All over the
That was a
ham.
good one. Yeah, piggy boy.
Keep ruining the hand.
Told you that was a good one this week.
Yeah.
I like it.
What was Piggy's thing? D Piggy? D Piggy?
I don't know. DP
I hope-
Iggy? I don't know.
I hope
You
you
like
liked
Dr.
it.
Pepper?
I hope you liked it.
I think the Dalai Lama would have approved of that joke.
He would have gotten that one.
Yeah. The Dalai Lama would have understood that joke.
He's like, I do that all the time.
I wonder if there's like a Dolly Piggy.
Or
There's a
alpaca.
Dalai Lama, so
Or I wonder if people that speak Spanish call him the Dalai Yama. Hey, Dalai Lama, if you want to come on the podcast.
if anybody knows the Dalai Lama, pass
Yeah.
on our request.
Tell him we'll buy him some Rogaine. We're here to help.
All right, y'all want to jump on into some youth ministry stories here?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
We got some good ones.
Coco Rico.
Oh, where'd you get your Coco Rico?
At a Vietnamese grocery store.
Nice.
Vietnamese.
Indeed.
It's big in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Or maybe our video caught wind in Vietnam and they went out and got some.
It probably
Coco
broke
Rico
wind in
taking
Vietnam.
all of us.
We did have a commenter on Instagram, one of our former youth. So this is sort of youth ministry stories, who said that some of her favorite memories of youth group seem to be all rap videos that Josh and I put together. So
Can't blame her.
I was very honored and touched by that.
Yeah. We were just doing the Lord's work. I mean,
That's right.
That's
If your youth ministers don't rap, then you need to think about finding somebody else.
Yep.
I always wished as a youth pastor to do a raptism where like baptized, but I had some rhymes to go with it, you know?
Somebody did that.
Where I'd be like, you believe in the Lord Almighty? And he goes, uh-huh. Do you think he raised you from the dead? Uh-huh. And then just dunk him.
Did you ever see the guy when the song Whip and Nay Nay was popular? The guy did a video. Watch me dip. Now watch me pray.
And they're drowning there, and he's praying.
It was like a whole video. I only wish I thought of it first.
Yeah.
that's good.
I feel like the important key to youth ministry rap videos is just the corniness. If it's not corny, it doesn't have the same effect. I feel like it really reaches people.
So I was thinking, is I Like Big Books, was that like the first youth ministry
have
rap
been.
video?
It was one of the first I remember seeing.
Yeah. I mean, and that was quality.
Yes.
That he, for being a pioneer in that field, he did a great job.
He is. He's like the Grandmaster Flash of youth
Yeah.
ministry rap.
We need that guy on
It's
here.
the father,
Yeah.
whatever his name is. I don't even know if he's a youth minister. It just might have been some dude.
Yeah. I'm just assuming he was a youth minister. I mean, he has all the qualities,
Yes.
you know.
Reeks of youth ministry.
Yes, it does. Well, that was good. That's good to hear. You know, at least we did something right.
Something.
Something.
You always get one.
I know a lot of youth ministry stories always surround just the thought of reeking, talking about reeking.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with middle schoolers. You're feeding them junk, as we addressed last week, like pizza and Mountain Dew and candy. And then when you go to like camp and things like that, you're in close confined spaces and there's just BO galore. And middle school boys are notorious for, instead of showering, they opt to just do the Axe shower,
Axe
where
shower,
they just take
yeah.
bottles of Axe and spray themselves. And so I remember so many times where we'd be getting ready for worship and they had been outside during camp all day long playing paintball or whatever they're doing. They're all sweaty. They throw on like a polo shirt, spray themselves with Axe, and walk right into worship, thinking that was going to have the 7th grade girls just oohing and ahhing. But yeah, it stank.
They were more like, ew.
Ew.
I don't know what it is about middle school boys, but it's like they can't smell that the Axe is just mixed with BO instead of covering the BO. And it creates a new ultra smell.
Yeah,
well, middle school
Axpo.
boys are they're just in a transition all around. So they're going from always smelling bad, always, to now thinking, oh, I could smell better. But yet it hasn't, that frontal lobe of like decision making isn't fully formed to understand I should shower. So they know they need to smell better, but they haven't linked the shower to that yet. So it's the Axe, but they're getting there. I mean, it's a transition to that point. It's just their body's changing stuff.
And it's funny to watch because you got the guys who catch on early. So by like 8th grade, they're showering and they smell good and they're grossed out by the other kids. But then you have the guys who are the opposite who don't really catch on and they're like 11th and 12th grade and they still stink. And it's like, dude, are you ever going to learn that you got to use water and maybe a little bit of soap?
Water is important.
Now, in fairness, though, they're being judged by the middle school girls who probably have the entirety of their first makeup kit on their face all at once going, ew, yo.
Oh, man. I spent, a couple years doing middle school ministry and just that. And I was like, yeah, this will be cool. And it's just a weird age, such a weird age. Because you'll have kids in middle school that are still really young and innocent. And they'll listen to you and they'll try to obey you and you're still the adult. But then they're not quite to where a lot of the high schoolers will get where they're like, okay, you're a cool guy. I can hang out with you. It's that rebellious, well, you're just the biggest idiot in the whole world. So you've got that whole spectrum in middle school over just like 3 years. And you never know really who it is that's going to be the jerk or that's just going to be like the sweet kid or whatever. And then it can change on a dime, on
That's
the
cheap.
same day. Yeah. Do what? What'd you say?
That's some cheap change, a dime. I'd pay that every time to get them to change.
Yeah, but they can change right back as well.
The problem is that they just don't change their clothes.
That's the problem.
That's true.
Right. They just spray Axe on it.
Hey, and is it true that
there's
Catholic boys do it this way?
I think so.
If you're on
Oh,
Spotify,
and for our, yeah,
you just missed it.
or blind.
So, that was one of the
Sorry,
things about youth ministry so I liked working with middle school and high schoolers, but for different reasons. Obviously, middle schoolers, they still laugh at your jokes. So we could make the rap videos and they still thought, oh, wow, that's really cool. High schoolers, not so much, but the high schoolers, especially ones that are in 11th and 12th grade, and not all of them, but they were the ones you could have the deep, good theological conversations with. You can sit down with a cup of coffee and just talk about life issues and all that. And so as being one who likes corny jokes, but also likes to discuss theology, it's sort of the best of both worlds. You just have to navigate all the messiness that's in between, like stanking and high schoolers giving you the cold shoulder and trying to be too cool and all that fun stuff.
There's one at that church in Tennessee. His initials are J.A., who's a high schooler, and he was the best of both worlds. I think he played guitar in that worship team.
Yeah.
He was like, everyone respected that dude, yet he had the heart of the middle schoolers when you're like, hey guys, we're going to play this game. And he's way too cool for the game. But he'd be like, let's go. And like, oh, we're going to eat this silly drink. He'd be like, yeah, let's do it. But we get so serious. Those are my favorite. I like middle schoolers' hearts, just not in them,
Yeah. By the way, I saw J.A. at the gym the other day working out, and I was working out, and we caught each other from across the room and gave him a big hug. It was pretty cool.
Cool dude.
I didn't know he was still in the
That
CLV.
now.
He is. He's still in the area.
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, let's hear some of the stories, some of the maybe comments that we have there from some of our listeners about some of their favorite youth ministry experiences.
It's about to get
I
good.
think the question is which one is the best to start with? There's a couple of good ones in here. Let's see. Let's start out with a comment from our YouTube channel from Tyler, who all of us know.
Tyler.
TB.
Tyler,
Up,
Who we
Tyler.
know and love.
not only
Yeah.
a former
Man.
youth that we all know and love, and then also loyal listener of our podcast. So,
Wasn't he a multiple-time Woo Fest champion?
Yeah. Until Caitlin, the girl,
That's
I think
right.
that was her name, dethroned him.
I think so.
Yeah. She told him what was up.
Live on the podcast this summer. Let's recreate Woo Fest with Tyler.
Yes. So what did Tyler have to say?
Yeah, Tyler's said, so many stories as a middle school student, some good, some bad. I remember when anyone mentioned food competitions, I always had to participate, especially once hosted at Camp Hillmont. I honestly think I won all of them as well. I remember one year someone challenged me to eating as many chicken wings as possible. And if I completed the challenge, I got a whole bag of rolls. And I won. I felt like I was on top of the world with those bag rolls. At another competition, I remember it was some type of Fear Factor thing. We had to drink milk with a whole bunch of stuff in the milk. No clue what was in there, but I drank it, and I think we also had to eat a whole thing of Spam as well. Somehow
What's wrong with
I won that one as well.
That one only has losers.
That's right. No one comes
I'd
in
love
first.
to do the Spam one. I'm gonna have a can of Spam one of these weeks. I'm just gonna eat
And all
it
the
whole
jelly
bunch.
and on top and everything.
Oh yeah.
Ah.
No, it's someone who, as a youth, was also the guy who won all the eating challenges.
Yeah.
There was one time we had a Spam eating contest where it was like, three of us, and it was who could eat a whole can of Spam the fastest. And I smoked everyone just by plopping it out on the table, and I ate it like a sandwich.
This needs to be recreated as well.
Did you get a bag of rolls though?
I didn't get a bag of rolls though.
That's too bad.
That's a prize that I never got.
Hey, my middle school youth group in Hawaii was called Spam, serving a perfect and awesome master.
Was this in Hawaii?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's another
that was
common
about-
thing of youth ministry is acronyms.
Yes.
Talking about these eating competitions. So, in my first church, we went to a camp where they had different rec challenges every single day, and one of them was your rec group had to consume an entire onion, just a raw onion, and nobody in our group wanted to eat the onion because that's just disgusting. But we had one girl, and sadly, she was like probably the most awkward girl you ever meet. This is a girl who just showed up randomly at my house one day when me and Steph were just hanging out, and just walked in and just opened the fridge and grabbed a soda, and then went to the bathroom without asking. But anyway, she ate the entire onion by herself. And the bad thing about it is the rest of the day, she would just walk up beside you and she'd be like, "Hey, Jeff," and just have this nasty onion breath. And I was like, just get out of my face. That's just disgusting. But, yeah.
Well, if she was a middle school boy, that might have been an improvement.
Yeah. Sad thing is she was like a junior girl. I mean, that's, you should know better.
Goodness.
Let's get some mouthwash.
I think that one of those eating contests Tyler's talking about, I think we did a guys retreat, and I remember, Jeff, we went to the grocery store before, and we went out to somebody's cabin, and I think Tad knew him or something. Do you remember this
Yep.
this guys retreat?
Oh yeah, there's
And-
50 of us crammed into this.
Yeah,
cabin.
yeah. And we did an eating contest. I remember we're just looking for the grossest things possible we could find. But what I remember about that weekend is not so much the food eating contest, but it's the fact that somebody left a turd on the bathroom floor.
I knew you were going.
Not a turd, a dollop.
Yeah,
It was a dollop.
I know. And it was kind of in the middle of the floor. So it wasn't
Wait,
so
how
much.
do you know, Ryan?
It was screamed multiple times that it was a dollop.
Okay.
Not one of
And then,
our
like,
other
the rest
adult
of-
males.
Yeah.
We all knew who it was, and I think they might be a listener, but but just the rest of the weekend was
Your mom?
Okay, who figured it out?
Well, honestly, like if you're somebody, if you do that and do it accidentally, of course you're gonna not own up to that. You don't want anyone to know that it was you. I completely get where that person was coming from.
So it was either an accident, which you're like, okay, how did it get in the middle of the floor? But if it was on purpose, I mean, that's even worse, right?
Yeah, if it's on purpose.
Well, you know,
why?
so the toilet had one of those like fancy toilet rugs, that people have that cozy up to the toilet. And the little tiny dollop was literally right in the middle of that fancy toilet rug. And so it's like, that clearly was purposeful.
Yeah.
So there's no other mess around it. It's just like a nice little, almost looks like a Hershey kiss.
Oh man.
And if he is listening, he didn't have an excuse then. Now, just from some of the things we've seen, I could see him doing that.
Yeah. Okay. That's true.
He's got excuses.
Yeah. There might be a reason.
Well, who had to pick it up?
I think the adult that yelled dollop had to pick it up.
Yeah, I think that was why he was so upset. Oh, that memory is etched into my mind. I'll never forget.
And that would, and it was a middle schooler.
Yeah,
Yes.
very much.
I think that was my first like real outing with you guys as well, because like I came along and did some worship songs for the group and everything. That was like my first like real getting to meet all of those younger guys there.
It was a crappy
What
time.
did I get
Good
myself
opening experience.
Oy. Yeah, we had a middle
What
school
else you
boy.
got
We took a trip up to Seattle with a group from church when I was doing student ministry. And there's maybe 12 of us. So I had a female chaperone, I was the male chaperone, and we were with a bunch of churches. And it's like everyone's sleeping with in this one church's auxiliary room. So there was like a girl half of it, a guy half of it, and just like a ton of leaders and a ton of students just sprawled out on the floor. And we had this one middle school boy with our group. And in the middle of the night, I just woke up because I felt like someone was watching me. And he was. He was sitting up in his sleeping bag. And he said, "That chicken we ate wasn't very good, I don't think." I said, "What do you mean?" And without missing a beat, he just spews everywhere.
Oh, God.
Like I've never seen that amount or pressurized that much. I mean, he got distance. He had volume. It was
kinda
really impressive.
Kind of like a demon possession type of throw up.
Except pink chicken we were fed by these old Baptist ladies at this old church.
It's amazing
Middle
how
school
many
boys.
youth ministry stories surround food and stink. It's like those two things just seem to be synonymous with like everything that you do.
I think those things are synonymous with teenagers in general.
Sure. Yeah.
We
An undeniable fact of life.
we were hosting we were host home for Disciple Now at a church a couple years ago, and the guys, there's a group of guys in our house, of course, and we've got this bonus room. The stairs go up past our just past our master bedroom entry, and so they're up there in the bonus room, and then one of them comes down and is like, "Hey, where's your vacuum cleaner?" And we're like, "Well, it's up there." "Oh, okay. We just made a mess. We're going to go clean it." And so they went up and then kind of came back down, like up and down, getting cleaning stuff. And I didn't realize until the next day that there was a kid, he had consumed like a couple of huge bags of Cheetos and just eating them all day long, or Doritos all day long. Well, he ended up throwing up on my carpet and this big orange stain up there. And of course they didn't tell us. I mean,
And they thought a vacuum would solve it.
well, and their
probably needed
male
cleaning
leader
after.
was up there as well. So never again. If we're ever a host home again, no more guys.
Well, that sucks.
That's
No more Doritos.
Literally sucks.
It is.
All right. Well, I'll move on to our next write-in. story. This is friend of the show, longtime listener Wesley.
Wesley.
We've
up,
read
Wes?
some good comments from before. So Wes said, as a youth intern for Waller, I had to go on a Super Sixers trip to Germantown, Tennessee, because even though it was open to all sixth graders, only girls signed up, and I had to be Waller's accountability partner. When we got to the hotel and got all settled in, and Waller called a meeting with everyone in our room and all the girls and female chaperones. The chaperones were the regular cool ones like Lori and Peggy, so I knew I could play pranks on the girls. So I jumped into the shower with my swimsuit on, and then I feel like everyone was in the room. Or when I feel like everyone was in the room, I came out soaking wet with a towel around my waist and said, "Sorry, I forgot my underwear." Then I reached into my bag and started fumbling around for my boxers. Then all of a sudden my towel somehow, quote unquote, slipped off, and in unison about 15 females started screaming, and Waller just laughing away like his normal self.
That would
Praise
not
the
fly
Lord.
today.
No,
it
probably have some people upset.
No.
Things you
Praise
could
the
do
Lord,
20
that
years
didn't happen
ago.
at my church.
Yeah.
So Wes is referring to Josh's and my youth pastor, Waller. And we have a ton of stories we could share about Waller, probably too many to get into. But Waller just had such a great sense of humor. I was telling the guys this week as we were texting about the show, he used to walk in like when the guys had to shower at camp, and Waller was just like this great, like he was this little goat of a guy. And Waller would walk into the shower, and of course he'd take his shirt off to shower, and he had absolutely no hair on his chest. It was just perfectly white and slick. He's like a 40-year-old man. And people always gave him grief about it, and he would always respond with, "Hey, grass doesn't grow on playgrounds, boys." We laughed every time. It was great.
Oh man.
I might have to quote that sometime.
So I need to take care of my dog. Y'all keep talking.
Another euphemism from Josh, everybody. He always has the best lines like that when he gets off camera. Always.
We were talking about dollops, and Josh had to leave. Take care of his dog.
Oh man.
That was fast.
Uh-oh. His wifey is calling him. Maybe we should put this on the show.
Okay, still looks happy. Let's do a play-by-play. Still looks happy. All right, he's thinking. Did he take the chicken out of the freezer at the right time?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Does he have both children at the house? Yeah, honey, it's right here. Yeah, I totally did.
He's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Do it
crap.
like me when
Dang it.
my wife calls and I got people on the headset and they're like trying to talk to me, and she's also talking to me. I can't focus.
So, talking about food, I loved seeing all of Tad's comments, I think, on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Because all of them seem to revolve around food in some form or fashion. He used to make the best, and I think he put this on there because I referred to it, the best smoked tenderloin sandwiches with Hawaiian rolls.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I always love
Oh,
when
they were
bring that
so
in
good.
first, and,
And I've tried to recreate that
Sneak a few.
myself, and I totally cannot master his recipe. So good.
That's delicious.
Exquisite.
That's actually how I met Tad. He probably doesn't remember this, but that summer I was down there. I knew nothing. My first day in Tennessee was a Sunday, and someone's like, "Hey, you should go say hi to the youth guys. They have food." Because they knew I was a poor college kid. I'm like, "Sweet." So I don't know anyone. I have a plate in my hand. Hey, how's it going? He's serving me his food. Like, who's this dude? But he's like the nicest dude. I was so grateful. Thanks, Tad. Love you, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's in
That's the
Dallas
best.
right now, I saw. So he's down in
Oh.
Texas.
Oh.
Hopefully eating some good barbecue.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of that.
Yeah.
Okay, start over. What I miss?
How's your dog doing?
As Grant said, your dog.
Do not go in there.
We were just talking about Tad and all his good food that he used to make.
Oh man,
Yeah.
So yeah.
yeah.
And Tad was one of your faithful youth workers, right?
Oh yeah.
People might not know that.
one of the most faithful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Tad was always there, always willing. He always went. He always took his vacation week at camp to go and chaperone camp for us. So he loved it. He loved that.
Legend.
And he
Yeah.
makes an appearance in the Coco Rico video.
He does.
He is also a fan of Coco Rico.
Yeah, yeah.
Delicious coconuts for all the girls in my chicos.
We'll need to get Tad on here at some point.
Yes.
We love you,
absolutely.
Tad, and Pam. We love you both.
Yes.
Just for you youngins out there, when your wife calls, you answer the phone. Like that's just the way it goes.
Sure.
I was like, I'm recording the podcast, and she's like, oh. So I'm just
You know
playing
how important
right now.
this is?
I know this is life changing. So. She doesn't listen to this. I can talk about it.
Yeah.
I get the opposite of that, where it's like I call and then she's like, "Oh, hey, I'm watching this reality show. I'm gonna let you go." I'm like, "Okay."
All right, when you're done, I'm stuck in a ditch. Just let me know.
So are you guys ever driving somewhere and you got like a song playing off your phone and it's like you're waiting for that part in the song that you've been like waiting for? It's the build up like 3 minutes into the song and then your wife calls. Like my wife has this uncanny ability to nail it every single time. And I don't know how she does it, but she's the master of calling like right as soon as the amazing bridge is about to build up.
Will she sing the bridge when you pick up?
Unfortunately not. And she always thinks I'm angry when I answer the phone, but it's because I was ready for this amazing part of the song.
Then after you got to restart
What?
the song. And...
I got to start over and get in the mood.
Well, I think our last Facebook commenter with a nice story for us. I'll end
Thanks for
that
keeping us on track,
section
Ryan.
with Jack, who wrote in just an amazing story. I'm excited to read for everyone. I was laughing pretty hard when I read it the other day. Jack says, several years ago, I was explaining to students that you could not drink a gallon of milk in under an hour. One of my students told me that he was sure that he had done it as he really loved milk and he drinks milk a lot or drinks a lot of it. I told him that I was sure he loved milk, but it was not possible. And at this point, I was setting him up. Once again, he said he drank a lot of milk and he was sure it could be done. It was time to set the hook. I told him that it was not possible because milk curds when it hits your stomach acid, and too much milk in a short time will cause you to throw it all up. I said this out loud in front of everyone, so I would have plenty of witnesses when his parents would most assuredly try to get me fired for humiliating their child in front of everyone else. He once again proclaimed quite emphatically in front of all the students that I had no idea what I was talking about and that he could do it. All I had to do was show up with a gallon of milk. Well, I showed up the next week with the milk. I also stacked the deck in my favor by buying whole milk. Kind of evil of me, I admit. He had a series of cups laid out, and so if he drank them every so often, he would get a gallon of milk down in less than an hour. Fast forward about 40 minutes. Young man was on pace to make it, and I was getting a little nervous. A few seconds later, his eyes got real big, and he asked me if he could go to the bathroom. I said no, knowing what was about to happen. He insisted on going to the bathroom again, this time with a little more urgency. I once again told him no. He turned around and threw up every ounce of milk he had already consumed. As the milk splattered all over the floor, I laughed so hard that I could hardly contain myself. I am actually laughing now as I type all of this. It is still one of the funniest things that I ever witnessed. Still in contact with this much older and wiser young man. We laugh about it whenever we talk.
That's important life lessons. That he can give.
Listen to your youth pastor.
Yep. Somebody tells you
Sometimes.
it's physically impossible to drink a gallon of milk. You listen.
Well, Ryan, I loved your response via text. You're like, that's the definition of pride before a fall.
Oh,
So
yes.
I think you nailed it.
I mean, it kind of sounds like an origin story of the guy who created almond milk or something.
Yeah.
Never drinking whole again.
I want to look for nipples on nuts.
I'm just gonna take that soundbite.
You put that
figured
on a
you would.
soundboard for next week. That we just play it at random.
Please.
Yep.
Oh,
Thank
man.
you, student ministry.
Sorry, Hunt Brothers, if you're still listening.
I think the fun thing about youth ministry is just that so many of the fun stories that we have, like, go back to these, kind of ridiculous moments where it's, somebody eating something gross, or, somebody, saying that they could drink a whole gallon of milk and then miserably failing in front of everyone. I feel like we go back to these constantly, but there's also so many good, enriching things that, happen in youth ministry as well, that I think a lot of us have plenty of experiences with. It's kind of, I feel like that's one of the beauties of youth ministry, is that you have so much fun, and you get to kind of cut loose in ways that you can't with some people for whatever reason. But then you also, have those times where you get really, really down and serious, and get to dig in with those, really up and coming, young people that are coming into early adulthood by the end of it. And, you get to kind of help them navigate that part of their life, which is so tricky for so many of us. I think that's personally one of my, like, the most beautiful things of youth ministry, that I, look back fondly on it.
Yeah, and that's cool that you say that, Ryan, because, as a former youth myself and youth pastor, and I think by the time Josh and I left youth ministry, I remember hearing and even believing some of it myself, should we even have youth pastors or student pastors, whatever you want to call them? Should we be taking responsibility away that really truly belongs to the parents, and, basically outsourcing somebody in the church to do it? And, as I've been able to sit back now and doing different kinds of ministry, which I've explained before, still feels like I'm in youth ministry. They just have guns now, but I believe we need youth ministry. And part of it is I see my daughter in it right now, who is in youth ministry, and my son's headed towards that. And it's not as a replacement for parental responsibility, because my wife and I take it very seriously to sit down and to teach our kids scripture and to pray with them. But I think it's great to have somebody that focuses on helping parents shape young people, giving teenagers an alternative to what is already a secular bombardment at that age, but really for the rest of their lives, and basically helping teenagers own their faith too. So it's not so much mama and daddy's faith.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Waller, my youth pastor, and probably did the same to you, Josh, at some point, but he gave us all a Bible when we left the youth ministry, and put the verse 1 Timothy 4:12 inside the Bible for us. Don't let anybody look down on you because you're young. And obviously that's Paul talking to Timothy, empowering him as a young leader. I felt very empowered by that scripture. And I think there's a lot of good that can come from teenagers having adults, yes, their parents, obviously, but other adults in the church empower them to go out and, to steal a phrase from the Harris brothers, do hard things, because I think too often we sell teenagers short on what they can actually do.
I really want to comment, but my dog's still barking.
For all of our blind watchers and Spotify people, one of my favorite things about this podcast is when the dogs bark. Josh just looks so bad. So great. It's not the dogs don't bother any of us, but it's just so funny to watch Josh get mad. I love it.
Well,
so I was looking back at this. So I've done a blog for a long time, and I actually went back and looked at something I posted years ago when I was in youth ministry, because I knew that I'd had some interaction with it. But I had written something on like a philosophy of youth ministry, and I was looking at some of the comments, and I remember, this was recent, and this guy wrote this probably 15 years ago, but I got a comment from somebody who was talking very negatively about youth ministry, about how there's a lot of silliness and a lack of depth. And I think to a degree, some of those are fair criticisms. But at least the youth ministry I grew up in and any youth ministry that I tried to be involved with, there was a lot of silliness, but we did not shy away from hitting, hard-hitting issues and really working to teach kids truth too. And I see that in a lot of youth ministry out there today, specifically the one my daughter's involved with. And so, I think some of that happens, but don't always assume that that's happening. You got a lot of guys out there who are real pastors as youth ministers who are working hard to teach kids about Jesus.
And I think a lot of it comes from, now that my dog is quiet for a minute, oh gosh, he hears the smallest things and he goes,
This has a lot to say about youth ministry.
I'm telling you. A lot of it is what is the church looking for as well, in their youth pastor? Because that, I've got a couple stories like kind of dealing with this, and I won't belabor them too long, but one of the first churches I served in, I was pretty much told by their youth minister hiring committee that one of my primary jobs was to come up with like weekly Friday night activities to try to keep the kids out of trouble. And, I was young enough and dumb enough to really understand that wasn't to not understand that wasn't my job description. I was like, oh, okay. So, but that was, as long as that happened, as long as I was entertaining the youth, then I was a success in the church's eyes. So there wasn't much, and I didn't really know what I was doing anyway. So there wasn't much of a focus on, we did Bible study and things like that, but there wasn't a lot of push from the church and church leaders to make sure that they had a youth pastor that was focused on, on discipleship as well. It was more just that entertainment end. And then there was another church I was in where once I got there, we started changing some of what was going on. I'm sorry about the dog. Once we got there, we started changing some of what was going on. And because they were used to doing these big, massive events and we spending tons of money on it. And so I just kind of had a different philosophy and was changing some of that up. And then I had a youth worker really upset at me about why aren't we doing this fun stuff anymore? Like we always did this and now we're not doing this. And, I wanted just to put some of that money towards some, more depth. And eventually I think that leader came back around and kind of understood what was going on. But I think a lot of youth pastors are, they struggle in that area just simply because of what they're receiving from maybe their leaders, their pastors, what they want to see happen in the youth ministry. And it's that idea, you guys have maybe mentioned it when I was distracted by my dog barking, but it's more than childcare, but there's a lot of people that view it that way. But it can be so much more than that.
It's relevant to us. We're about to hire our first student pastor since my church plant merged with the existing church and become a new church. And it's kind of a fun time to talk about the precedent that we're setting. Like we're trying to hire somebody to teach our kids about Jesus and be a trusted adult that they could kind of picture themselves in their next stage of life, but setting realistic expectations for our church and our families. We're not hiring this person to grow the church. A lot of youth pastors have that expectation too. They have this position, they are going to grow our church because then families will just hear about it and show up. No, they're there to serve the kids that our church as a whole reaches. So we got to just set the right expectations where we're setting them up for success, to be supported by the whole church, because all of our kids are serving in various ministries all over the church. They're very visible, and this is not a silo. We love our youth. We don't want them on the outside of our ministry. One of the big lies of the modern church right now is with millennials coming into church leadership, that they've handed off the church to the next generation. But if we're not recognizing Gen Z is the current adults. And then our youth that we're serving is a generation after them. So unless we recognize them as the church now, we're already losing 2 generations. So it's a fun time for us because we're experiencing a little growth, but and about to hire our first new staff person since the merger, which I have to pronounce. Apparently, I say merger quickly, and it sounds like merger with a G.
Well, one church was killed in this, right?
Yeah,
There's
it felt
one
pretty
church that
good.
no longer exists. So
You're just being very blunt. It's a murder.
With blunt tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, all of us, right? Like in our youth, or at least our time in youth group, like God did significant things in our hearts and set the trajectory for us to serve Him somehow later on. So, it's such an important time. So,
yeah, it is, and I think it's vital how it's done because we do see the need for it. My kids my youngest just graduated high school last year, so they've gone through that. They're the Gen Z young adults now, and and I definitely saw the importance of having that community in their life. But we're here. This could be a whole other podcast topic, but we hear all the time people who are like deconstructing their faith, and people like Josh Harris that that I Kissed Dating Goodbye, who was that was a big book
and his
around
wife.
the time, yeah, and his wife, yeah, around the time we were, I guess, late high school. I think that was coming out, and but you have all these people, and I think a lot of the issue with that, and like we'll hear of friends that are like leaving the faith or deconstructing, whatever that means, and I think a lot of that is because now that they've left youth group, and that one, they were isolated, so they don't necessarily know how to interact with the church as a whole, but so many things are kind of expected of them that are extra biblical expectations. And that may be in youth ministry or just in the church as a whole, and put on teenagers. And then when they get out and they're beginning to own their faith, they realize, well, this isn't really biblical. So what else is not biblical that I was taught? So that, a youth ministry has to spend time in the Word. Like, you can have fun. You can do the silly things, but it's got to be Bible-based. And Jeff and I know we were big proponents of this. Like, even in our teaching, when we would come up with teaching series, like, give them meat. They could handle it. And I think they were hungry for it. And we didn't always do it perfectly, but just this idea of just kind of spoon feeding them. They're not quite ready to get the depth of the Word. Like I think we set a whole generation of teenagers down a path to where they're rejecting a Christianity that's not even a real Christianity. And so, like, that's just got to be such a vital part of any youth ministry is keeping them in the Word, discipleship, and not neglecting those things.
Faith comes by hearing, and hearing
Chubby Bunny.
Well, just to kind of like piggyback off that from my personal experience, making the transition from a teenager to a young adult and then on into, the workforce after college and stuff like that, I was faced with a lot of things that challenged ways I thought originally. And I've, grown and changed some things, but the core of my faith has always stayed there because I had such a solid foundation in my, late teens that really kind of kept me there. So, like, even though I've run into these things that have challenged me, nothing's ever just pushed me away because my faith is my own. And that's, I feel like that's the biggest thing in youth ministry, is making sure that these teenagers are not just doing what they're told, that they're actually, finding some, faith and meaning in the depth of it, and not just getting a surface level,
Does mommy and daddy want me to be here?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I think in addition to that, and one of the things I look back on and think, yeah, I would have done this differently, is, giving them meat like Josh talked about, but also looking at ways that I can help equip parents and also other adults that work with teenagers, and helping empower them, train them as the spiritual leaders in their households, but also teaching adults how to disciple teenagers, because it felt very organic to me as a youth pastor, and even now as a chaplain, to disciple believers. But I don't think it always feels organic to people. And there's some people who are intimidated by that thought of discipleship, or maybe make too much out of it. And I think if we could do that, or if youth pastors could do that, working with the parents, teaching adults how to disciple, I think you would see some of those things that Ryan talked about as the youth graduate. They're going to be challenged in their beliefs. They have that core system, but they're also going to have that mentor, that person that's invested into them that they can reach out to, and that can help them balance some of those difficult issues that they're going to be faced with when they get into their college years. And
then I think also them like realizing that they're a benefit to the body. And that was a neat thing at this church we served in. You know, we kind of joked around about, you know, high schoolers staffing the middle school camp, but things like that, giving them opportunities. I mean, we let a student preach once or twice. We'd work with him, and one kid wrote the curriculum for camp one year, and or really came up with the idea. And that wasn't just new with us. I think one of the reasons, you know, especially, you know, for Jeff and I, that we wanted to have kids do that is because our youth pastor did that for us. You know, we talked about Waller earlier. You know, I knew, I think when I was a sophomore or junior in high school, I wanted to go into ministry. I didn't really know what that looked like, but Waller gave us opportunity to serve and to lead in various ways. And that's always stuck with me. You know, it wasn't just him running everything, but he developed a student leadership team. He took us on a retreat. We planned the calendar. We pulled together events. We did announcements. We led music, which was just singing to a cassette tape back then. But, you know, he gave us these opportunities to minister and to lead, which I think sparked something in a lot of us. And there's a lot of kids that came out of that group that, you know, some have fallen away, but there's a large contingent that are solid believers, whether they're serving in a church or whatever. And I think that was a testimony to how we were not only, it was fun, it was silly. We were taught the word, we were given opportunity to lead, but then Waller just did life with us. He just spent time with us. And I didn't know he was discipling us, but that's what he was doing, you know? So it just shows like that very well-rounded approach to what we're doing with teens, just how vital that is.
So I know we're about to close because we're reaching that time, and we've had some good, serious discussion. But can I share like a kind of fun story towards the end here?
I wish you would.
So this is a youth ministry story that I always go back to. This is from my days as a youth pastor. So Ryan remembers this. We went on this mission trip to Colorado, and anyways, we had one free day where me and Stephanie and two of my youth and one of the youth's dads decides to climb up a mountain. It's Mount Ida in Rocky Mountain National Park. It's about a 5-mile trail. The mountain's about 13,000 feet. I went back and looked it up. 13,000 feet high. Super tough, thin air. Stephanie and I are both runners, so climbing the steep mountain, walking the long distances, that kind of stuff. It took its toll, but we were fine for the most part. The parent that went and his son, they brought these cans of oxygen with them. And when we first started, they would stop about every quarter mile, and they'd be sucking these cans of oxygen like they were drug addicts. They were just getting all the air that they could, and kept asking us if we wanted to hit. And I was like, no, we're good. The other youth that went, whose dad didn't go, the other youth that went, this kid was actually in really good shape. He was a football player. He was muscular, not like a big giant muscular, but like a lean muscle kind of guy, very athletic. Thought he would be fine. Anyways, he struggled the most. In fact, we actually got to a point where it was doubtful that we were going to make it to the summit. So the parent and his son, he encouraged me and Steph to just go on up ahead and get to the summit. He's like, you guys are clearly going to make it. Just go ahead. We'll stay back and we'll stay with this other guy who was struggling. And I said, you sure? And he's like, yeah. He said, okay. So we left them and we made it to the summit. And it was really cool, beautiful, getting to see all the mountains. we stayed up there for about 30 minutes, took pictures, and we decided to go back down to regroup, hopefully that we were going to find them on this trail. Well, in the distance, we see the adult leader and his son walking towards us, but without the other youth. And they're up there, huffing their oxygen still, but they make it up to the summit. And we're like, oh, this is great. But then I look at him and I'm like, where's Ross? This is the other kid, Ross. And the dad says, he got tired and he told us to go on. And he said he's going to lay down and take a nap. I'm like, take a nap? I'm like, first of all, this isn't wise because there's snow all over the ground. He's going to be soaked. Plus, there's like wild animals out here. There's bighorn sheep, like rams, literally on the mountain. We saw a bunch of them. There's marmots. It's probably
Mormons?
not the safest thing to, Mormons and Marmons.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. We go back down to try to find him. We go to the spot where they tell us that he's sleeping, and we see the print of his body in the snow, but he's not there. The other kicker is that the spot that he laid down in literally was like on the side of the mountain. Like, I mean, you move 2 inches and you're falling off this 13,000 foot drop. And all of a sudden I start to freak out because there's no guardrails on the mountain. I'm like, this kid fell asleep and he rolled off the mountain. He's dead. Like, what am I going to tell his mom? Like, we're just freaking out thinking the worst has happened. And so we're running just all over this mountain, all over this trail, screaming his name, Ross, 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 just looking for him. And, I'm having flashbacks to watching like Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone, thinking, just like the worst things that could happen on a mountain probably happened to him. Finally, after about a half hour, we thought he was dead. My wife's crying, all this stuff. We see him walking in the distance towards us. So he had this big blue jacket on, I'll never forget. And he's walking towards us, and my wife runs and like meets him and like hugs him. She's freaking out. But at some point, he just got up from his nap and decided to start walking to see if he could find the summit, and he got lost. Thankfully, we were able to reunite, and I didn't have to go back down the mountain and tell his mom, oh, by the way, your son just fell off the mountain. We left him. He was sleeping. But one of the scariest moments I've ever had as a youth pastor was those like that like 1 hour of just thinking, where is this kid? And we're running around trying to find him on this mountain in the middle.
And then
of
you
Rocky
just
Mountain
wanted to
National
kill
Park.
him.
Yes. I mainly wanted to kill the dad because I'm like, you're the adult. Like, come on, you let it. But this is the same dad who, no joke, we went on a mission trip to China and we got stopped by a gate guard who spoke Mandarin, and clearly we can't understand him. And the same dad said, no habla Espanol to the Mandarin or the Chinese gate guard.
That's just a good dad joke, okay?
No, he did, and Ryan, I think you might have been there when he did that, and I'm just thinking, like, what?
I think that was one of those times we got lost in China.
Man, so many good stories. I've got a good one, but I'll save it for another time because we're at an hour and 7 minutes. This is the longest podcast. So. Ooh. Well done, people.
That's right.
Well done. There's so much.
I thought this was the Dude Facts podcast.
Yes, aka the longest.
Good. Good.
We still haven't explained our name.
I know. No one's guessed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll have to let people get some more guesses in.
You're wrong,
guess, people.
but thanks.
If you guess, you'll get a prize. Maybe if somebody guesses it right, free shirt. We got to make it first.
Yeah,
free shirt.
I've got
make
a
a shirt,
extra,
and then you get a
free
free
just
shirt.
giveaway. I think we need a Dude Facts T-shirt. Someone needs to design that for us. I know we've got a listener that's got some skill.
Yep.
All right.
Or we could just iron on our logo on a white shirt
while we're wearing them.
Yeah.
Do it on wife beaters though. Can I say that? I don't know if I can say that. We might
Is that not the correct term for that shirt?
I don't know if it is. I just feel like in today's culture, I can't. We're going to get canceled. They're going to kick us off. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. No one made it this long.
That's right.
No one can cancel me before I
We
cancel
can say anything
myself.
we want after an hour into the podcast.
That's right.
I have ever.
I declare bankruptcy.
All Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining us this week, and remember to like and subscribe, and make sure to share and roll on over to YouTube. Give us any of your thoughts on the podcast, any topic ideas you'd like to hear us discuss. Without a lot, because we don't really have a lot of knowledge on any one topic, so we'll just kind of swim around in the shallow end of whatever you want us to talk about. And then any
90s Red Sox baseball, then I've got a lot of knowledge.
Okay, so. We can do that.
Yeah.
And any other stories you have, just ministry related, youth ministry, man, we'd love to have those and just kind of share them from podcast to podcast. So let us know those.
We get enough of them, we can make that a weekly segment.
Yeah, love to do that.
And don't forget, next week, Mando season 3.
Oh, but it's actually this week.
That's right. Yeah, 2 days from now.
2 days from now. That's right.
Free advertisement for Disney.
We're hoping
up, Disney.
We're hoping
Disney.
to get some Disney bucks thrown our way.
Oh,
man, that would be awesome. All right. Y'all have a good one. We'll talk to you next week.